All right, Mac, I figure I'll just do one little video at a time here because there's so much. You got a nice project going. That's pretty awesome. But, you know, you got so much going on. I'll just do one thing at a time. As far as your front brake goes, I'm on the wrong side here. Yamaha did a European model. That's why there's mounts on both sides, because they made their forks for either European or American, so you can mount your brakes. You can actually put duals on there if you want, but why would you? Anyway, you're going to need to get, since you got apes on yours, you're going to need to get a long enough cable. You can make a custom one, Sniper 2 brake lines. I think it's I forget what company. You just type, if you Google Sniper 2 brake lines, you can get all the fittings and everything you need to make custom lines. It's not cheap, but they're really nice. Other than that, you're going to have to measure, give yourself enough room, you know, to bend around. This one's actually I think too long, if you can see what I'm saying, but I got it on there and it's working well. And you're going to need to measure your bar diameter. You got 7/8 or 1 inch, and find the corresponding master cylinder. If you got 7/8, you can use a stock 650 master cylinder. Just paint it up because they are kind of fugly from stock. And when you get to bleeding it out and all that, we'll get to that when we get to that. A lot of times, these stock, this is a stock master cylinder, a lot of times they leak. You can't get them to bleed out, and they'll either be like pits in the piston. I wish I would have thought this out. I would have showed you a bad piston. We'll get to that when we get to that. But get you a long enough hydraulic line. Get yourself a master cylinder. I don't recall if you got one yet or not from your thing, and you know, your lever, whatever, however you want to do it. Is it necessary on a chopper to run a front brake? Safety first, man. I mean, I see a lot of guys that don't even run them at all. But you got a drum back brake on yours, which I like better than the hydraulic, because they're mechanical. I mean, you know, no run lines back there. No funky mounting a master cylinder. Oh, one more thing before I forget to tell you. Since you have a hardtail like this one over here, and I don't have it on there, your chain is going to be so long that you're almost going to need to mount a chain tensioner on it. Okay? They make these out of a skateboard wheel, or this is a sprocket. I like the sprocket kind. Don't pay no attention to this. This is something I just made up myself to try to save some money. But there's a nice one. It's by Monster Craftsman. It's a chain tensioner. Again, if you Google that or whatever, you can find it. They're not cheap either. They're about $100. But with your stretched out hardtail, get a chain tensioner. Okay, and it'll mount to your chassis like so. Of course, it's got a torsion spring on it, so you know that I can't do one-handed. You know what I'm saying? You got common sense. You can figure that out. What else while we're thinking about it? Oh, the next thing you said was about your gauges of wire. Do you need 8 gauge for or 10 gauge for a engine ground? No. Reason being, you're not running a starter and you're not running a battery. That's where all your high amp draw is coming from or whatever. So you don't need that big a gauge of wire. 12 gauge, perfect. Use 12 gauge. I wouldn't use anything smaller like 14 or 16, but I'd use a good 12 gauge stranded wire for your ground. That should be fine. And grounding your headlight to your, I don't even think this one don't have it set up that way. This one does. I think, yeah, grounding it all, you know, to your engine, you know, where your engine grounds would be fine. Okay, again, since you're not running a battery or a high amp, 60 amp draw starter, you don't need that big a gauge of wire for a ground. 12 gauge will be fine for your headlight and your Pamco on all your other stuff. All right, there's the first of a series of small videos.